harming the person. Okay. I was reflecting on Joseph the dreamer, okay, in the Bible for my quiet time. It was yesterday, and when I was um studying this particular lesson that we have, I just thought of that. Okay, there were actually a lot of deceptions that happened in the account of Joseph the dreamer. So the very first one was when he was deceived by his brothers. So that deception there, why? Because they intended, most of them intended to harm him, even at first kill him. Why? Because they were envious of the attention that he was the favorite son. Okay, he was so favored by Israel or by Jacob that the envy went up to here, that they really didn't want to, because Joseph, as a young child, he was telling them about his dreams of him becoming great, and they were so irritated about that. So that's deception, because they led him, okay, into believing that they cared for him. So one time when Jacob or Israel asked them to, okay, look for food, so he was there. Okay, they sold him. Okay, they sold him to traders, and eventually he went. Okay, he was brought to Egypt. But okay, the rest is actually history. But I just remember about that particular deception happening. So as I was saying, deception, okay, is making someone believe in something that is truth as the false. So it distorts the truth by verbal or non-verbal action. So there are different forms of deception, like concealment, or not withholding or hiding some information. And there's also falsification, okay, presenting false information as if they were true. So lying can be a form of deception, but deception may not be lying. Okay, so we know the gravity of lying, of deception as compared to lying. Okay. Um, According to Dr. Isabel Cornell here, deception is an evolutionary strategy for natural selection. So, as what you can see here, it's all about survival. Okay, that how these animals have deceived fellow animals, okay, to survive. Okay, it's part of the evolution, part of surviving. And there's even evolution versus communication. Of course, when we communicate, okay, we are expected to cooperate, and there are these speech acts that have evolved to facilitate communication, and that with this tenet on cooperative principle, that we automatically assume that participants in a conversation are being cooperative. Okay, that's what we are taught, that we are supposed to interact, exchange thoughts, and share meaning with one another to gain understanding. But of course, that doesn't happen, as there are people, okay, who would deceive us with their intentions, with their evil intent. Okay, and that with the conversational maxims, we assume that cooperative communicators are informative, truthful, relevant, and clear, and we bank on the maxims by Grice. Okay, the maxim of quantity, that we provide adequate but not but not overly informative. The maxim of quality, to just present truthful information. The maxim of relevance, or to provide relevant information, and the maximum of manner, to provide clear, unambiguous, brief, and orderly presentation or information. Now, in terms of communication and deception, so deception piggybacks on our communication behavior. So just like a parasite, of course, with our sinful nature, okay, human nature, that's to save face. Okay, so it's always there, and we would have that tendency um, to deceive, okay, to lie. Okay, and even in the biological world, mimicry involves unconscious deception by similarity to another organism or to a natural object. Okay, and deception here is truth mimicry. According to De Paulo in 2013, okay, he suggests that behavioral cues to deception are normally faint or hardly perceptible unless they're more motivated to lie. So it's really hard to detect the cues leading to deception, okay? Unless, okay, you know that this person really is lying. So the study of deception is hampered by the inability to reproduce the conditions under which deception cues may be made more visible. In other words, um, it's we're limited. So when we try to analyze deception, we're we're limited by such short document or even by the cues, okay, used in this in deceiving, okay, in spotting whether these cues would be helpful in identifying whether there's deception or not. And it's hard, okay? It's hard to reproduce such particular conditions by which we will be able to determine whether this is really a deceptive act or not a deceptive act. And these are actually the theoretical assumptions for deception. So these are mainly hypothetical, okay? That deception will affect the deceiver's thoughts, deceiver's feelings, and cognitive processes. That in that these particular um, things here, these concepts would be realized or would be reflected in a person's emotional leakage, in a person's lack of embracement or lack of assertion or of saying yes, so lack of embracement, and even cognitive load. So I'll explain each later on. So deception suffers from the idea that deception cues should be universal and that cues such as found in interpersonal oral deception extend to other contexts. So we cannot really say that deception cues are universal. Okay, that the cues found from this context, from this person, may be found from another one. Why? Because deception cues are highly contextual, highly dependent, for the reason that language and linguistic strategies vary according to context and according to media. So, for instance, according to context, who are you talking to? I'm not saying that you can deceive your parents, but sometimes deceive or lie to your parents. Okay, the lower level of deception, lying. Okay, because you don't intend harm, but of course you would have your own perhaps such scheme or just to have fun. Maybe you want to go out or you want something but they're not agreeing, and so you try to deceive them, right? So um well, say as a person, as a son or a daughter, you know your parents well and you know how to convince them, and you know, okay, when can they be deceived, something like that. So it depends on the context, depends on who you're talking to. So you cannot also, okay, you're also trying to, when you one would try to deceive a professor, for example, or a business partner, perhaps. So it depends on the context. It depends also on the medium used. Okay, so just like the exam we had last time, okay, medium use, whether it's oral or written, so you were able to spot, okay, such pretentious language. So that's about it, the medium use, because normally you don't say those words, you don't express those, utter those words. Okay. And there's this accommodation theory by Giles, okay, in which it emphasizes that we adjust our speech, okay, to conform or accommodate, okay, the person we are addressing, and that results in conversing. So That's the accommodation theory. It explains our actions or our behavior, that there are no universal deception cues, that one feature can also be seen from the other, although there may be overlap. Okay, so liars may adapt any number of verbal strategies to conceal their lies depending on their circumstances, altering their approach as they think necessary and quickly adapting it in response to feedback. So, the identification of cues characteristic of deception has long been associated with certain perspectives, okay, that deceivers are thought to experience when they lie. So all these emotions, okay, cognitive load, and attempted behavioral control and lack of embrace too. So these, okay, underpin physical and linguistic cues to deception. So when one's telling the truth or when one is lying, these may be revealed. Okay, although these processes that I mentioned, the ones you see on your screen, are hypothetical and they're identified to explain differences in deceptive behavior between deceivers and truth tellers, evidence, okay, exists that deceivers do experience some of the processes more than truth tellers. Okay, so these could be indicators of deception, but we're not conclusive. Okay, because truth tellers would also express some. Okay, that's why they're regarded to be hypothetical. So, with regard to the emotional leakage, when you express fear, when you express anxiety, okay, so they may be unreliable indicators of deception because the truth teller, okay, may also express fear, express anxiety cues as well, being worried about not being believed, that he would not be believed, or even the experienced liar would express such fear as well. Okay, there's another one. There's the lack of embracement or embrace, when one would deny such aspect, um when you're so not assertive. So that would also mean that you're expressing such deceptive cues. And even the other one, the cognitive load. So in terms of the cognitive load, um this happens when there's just too much information that one can handle. So, pag tuliro ka na and you don't really know what's happening or what you're saying, so that's the amount of mental activity imposed on the working memory. So, some truth tellers experience cognitive loading when telling difficult truths, as well as liars would do that. Okay, so the difficulty with labeling certain word groups as deception indicators, not deception indicators, is that it ignores, okay, the natural semantic instability of language. So, deceivers do not lie in the same way. The language of deception may be vague, reticent, verbose, negative, subjective, or a combination of two or more. So language is a situational construct. Language and context are intertwined. And the author's goals at the same time of communication exert a strong influence of construction and word cues. So it depends on who you're talking to. Okay, so um there. And we also have the Othello error. Okay, so those who are Shakespeare lovers here, Shakespeare fanatics, we have the Othello error. And this term derives from Shakespeare's play, The Tragedy of Othello, where Othello wrongfully accuses and ultimately kills his wife, Desdemona, of adultery by mistaking her fear of not being believed when telling the truth. So she was really telling the truth, but she was exhibiting fear. And Othello thought that the fear being exhibited was a deception cue, whereas it's really uh, real fear that the wife was experiencing, fear of not being believed. Okay, and because of that error, Othello killed the wife. So something, it's for the others it's called detection apprehension. So it's this happens, the Othello error happens when a lie catcher fails to consider that a truthful person who's under stress may be displaying similar behaviors to a deceitful person afraid of being caught. So we have this also to take note of the Othello error that we might exhibit as linguists, okay, as forensic linguists when examining the evidence on that's presented before us. So again, deception cues are not constant, okay? We use language differently when we speak and when we write. So as what I explained last time, in speech, language expresses reality as a process. Okay, so just with this example here, the people in the colony celebrated enthusiastically when it's promised that things would change in this way. So it's a process, looking at it as a looked at as a process, more of a process for speech. While in writing, it's expressed more as a product or as an object. Okay, so this version, opinion in the colony greeted the promised change with enthusiasm. And we, of course, know the differences between speech and writing, such such would affect the lexical and grammatical choices, and therefore deception cues, such as for speech. So we look at it as a dynamic process. And we know of the shorter clauses used, the lower lexical density, and with the use of processes and properties, the use of more verbs, okay, more adjectives to describe these, to characterize the processes. While for the written language, okay, it's more seen as a static object, okay, and so we have there made the presence of more nouns, okay, and also the presence of longer clauses, higher ratio of lexical to grammatical words. Next, we have the witness statements. Okay, so this is the lesson today, and this is also what you will analyze. Okay, come Thursday, witness statements. So a witness statement is a narrative relating to an event witnessed or experienced by the individual writing the statement. Okay, so a witness statement is just like a monologue. Okay, it differs from an interactive turn taking. It's absent. Okay, there's no turn taking happening, there's no interaction happening. Okay, and there are no addressees present. So, the observers, the readers of a statement, are passive participants in the monologue, and they're still considered to be participants as distinct from unknown recipients or of written witness statements. So the recipients could be the police officers or noting the statement, or even the complainant. Okay. Now we look at the narrative progression. So a narrative is a report of a sequence of events that has entered into the biography of the narrator. So it's all about partitioning, okay? Narratives fall into three sections. So we have the reportable event, okay, and what happened before and what happened after. So the reportable event is composed of these, okay? So for each event, you have a clause, a temporal juncture or a pause, and then the clause that connects, clause 2 that connects to clause 1. And in a narrative progression, between the reportable event, you have 1, what happened before, and we have 2, what happened after. Okay, so memories of actually experienced events tend to be associated with supporting memories, okay, preceding and following the remembered event. This means that when we try to remember narratives, when we try to recall certain accounts, we actually relate, okay, This is the main reportable event, right? Main reportable event, and this is event that happened before, event that happened after. Sometimes we're guided by what happened before, what happened. That's why then you would remember what really happened. This is the middle, the reportable event. Okay, so a statement subdivided into three balanced portions is taken as an indicator of truthfulness. So if there's a balance, okay, among the three reportable event, what happened before, what happened after. But if there's an imbalance of one or more of these three partitions, then most likely it's suggestive of deception. So the use of supporting information is employed by people to make judgments as to the source of other people's memories, particularly when its veracity or truthfulness is in doubt. Okay, so what people do, what analysts do would be to analyze the supporting information before and then after. Thus, people use the same judgments, okay, to evaluate the veracity of other people's memories as they do own and are likely to apply the knowledge to make their false accounts more believable. Okay, so De Paulo actually reports that deceivers refer to event peripheries to the reportable event more often than truth tellers. So in other words, when there's deception, okay, when there's deception, deceivers would focus on these peripheral events, on these events that happened before, events that happened after, and not really on the reportable event. Okay, that's exciting to see as FL, forensic linguists. But the difficulty lies in that, okay, as linguists, we need to decide where the boundaries lie. Okay, the line where the central event starts, and then where it finishes. It's actually blurred. Okay, but there are cues. There are linguistic cues. Okay, so narrators linguistically reconstruct reality. Okay, to create meaning. And the credibility arises from addressees believing that the reportable event occurred in real time. Okay, so this what we are actually trying to examine. So we also look at narratives as a progression of episodes. So just like stories that we read, stories that are provided to us. So there's the initial action, rising action, okay, climax, okay, and then denouement, and then the falling action. So it's a series of episodes, okay? So narrators subdivide their narratives into thematic bundles of information or episodes, okay? So yeah, from the rising action, then going to this particular action, going to the climax. So these are thematic bundles of information. So the nature of narratives and the sequencing of events have implications for the analysis of deception. So a narrative which consists of sequence of episodes represents a progression of events over a particular time. So as a minimum, linguistically, a narrative consists of two independent clauses containing the complication, what happened, separated by a temporal juncture, pause, and then the and then later actions, okay, reported in the clauses. So there can be narrative without the progression of the event. So deception is also a progression. Deception rarely consists of a sibling behavior or event. It's a progression of behaviors that happened over time. Okay, we take a look at the clauses. So the reportable event consists of two clauses. So we have here the independent clauses. They can stand on their own, just like the examples here. Her house was broken. The robbers fled. The suspects emerged from the darkness. They are main clauses. And then we have the dependent clauses here that need to be attached to an independent clause. So while she was at home when the police arrived, as I headed back to my vehicle. Okay, so they need to connect to the main clauses for them to make sense. So the effective way, okay, for forensic linguists in analyzing deceptions at that would be to use the narrator's own linguistic signposting to manage the information flow and facilitate the reader's understanding of the event. And here, the creation of marked sentence structures, which act as segmentation markers, okay? I'll go into that one later on, the marked sentence structures. So these marked structures alert readers to major changes in continuity. Okay, so marked are deviations from the standard sentence construction. So just like this. So we have here the marked, so the standard first. Standard order of sentence clauses, main clause plus subordinate clause. So that's the usual way. That's how we say express things. We start with the main clause followed by the subordinate clause, just like the robbers fled when the police arrived. And then it's marked. It's not the usual, okay, when we make use of the subordinate clause first, followed by the main clause. Okay, I'm not saying here that, okay, you need to be conscious that, okay, when stating something, you need to start with the always with the mark clause. So again, we go back to what I mentioned earlier that about the context, okay? The use of these would vary and they are just tendencies. But if we see patterns, then that's different. So here, the some marked sentence structure. So these are sentences which have an initial adjunct, the subordinate clause or phrase, or prepositional phrase with an adverbial function. So these are examples. At this point, okay, I felt. In August 2011, my neighbors. Suddenly, and then as I slid, and then, okay? So these are marked sentence structure. So lying in written monologue is highly stressful, okay? When none of the advantage of interactive and oral and textual deception. So as I mentioned earlier, because when you know too well the person you're deceiving, then okay, you can manipulate things like um, they say that liars can't look straight into the eye, but deceivers, okay, can do that. So of course, so when they're so good at deceiving, they can straight look into the eye. So that's a strategy, right? So to manipulate the person and to make the person believe that what that he's really truthful into what he's claiming to be. Okay, so that's lost when you were trying to deceive in an interactive fashion because okay, although these monologue deceivers, this persons who are presenting monologues that are deceptive, they may plan their narrative, okay, and but okay, the authors, there is authors of deceptive written witness statements still have to decide how to convey their false account in a way that will appear balanced and consistent with the known truths and therefore convincing. So they also need to devise ways by which they need to be consistent, by which they would need to appear, okay, truthful at that. So there's no single addressee to whom they can direct their communication, and they have no control over the distribution of their statements, which means that they have to consider deceiving a larger group of people. Okay, let's take a look at this. Episodes. So some of the episodes here. When she was going through the mental detector, highlight important episode. Once we got to the train station, we met. Okay. After proceeding, so the episodes would change depending on the okay topic that's introduced. But you notice here the marked linguistic features. Okay, I'll give you time to read. Okay, applying all that we have discussed, I've shared with you, there's this real incident called the Chappaquiddick incident. This happened in the 1960s, late 1960s, and this involved the brother of John F. Kennedy, Senator Ted Kennedy. So he was still young at that time. So he went to a party and then he was with friends. And then later on, when he was about to was on his way home. So he was driving a car, and he was with a lady named Mary Jo Kopechne. Okay, what happened was later on, okay, from this particular site, the car flipped. Okay, the car was submerged. Okay, in that particular body of water here, he actually survived, but Mary Jo died. So this was his account. Okay. So he was not indicted. Okay. He was not charged. But this incident affected his political career because he was trying to, I think that he had plans of running for the presidency. So I want you to read this first. Let me remove my face so you can okay, see this on your own, please. Okay, let's actually determine okay the episodes here. So from the episode we'd have a clearer okay perspective as to the narrative of Ted Kennedy here. So this is his witness. Oh, this is his account. Okay, this is his account. So what do you think is the first one, the first episode here? So the episodes would be about those topics, and we know that there's a shift to another topic already when there's another episode created. But it would still be along one narrative. So from the first sentence on July 18, 1869. Okay, of course, that's the first episode. Where do you think, okay, does the first episode end? Yes, Yanni. Yanni, Dyke Road. Where's that? Dyke Road. Oh, okay. And okay, I was driving my car on Main Street on my way to Dyke Road. Okay, there's one more. Okay, move forward. Just one more clause. That's up onto the Main Street, Yanni. Okay, but good, you're almost there. Onto Dyke Road instead of bearing hard left on Main Street. So the first episode would be about driving okay his car on Main Street, and instead okay he made a mistake okay of turning right to the Dyke Road instead of to the Main Street. Okay, so you need to include the clause after. That's the first one. Okay, so the second episode starts with after proceeding. Okay, after proceeding. So where do you think does that end? the second episode end? So first he was driving, right? Oh, Yanni, what about the others? I came to the surface. Okay. So you have an answer here, Yanni. I came to the surface. I came to the surface. Okay, there. So before the red, yeah, I came to the surface. So in this particular episode, okay, after making a mistake, turning right, okay, the car went off the side of the bridge. Okay. The car went off the side of the bridge, and there was one passenger with me, Miss Mary Kopekne, and the car turned, sank into the water, and with the roof resting at the bottom. I attempted to open the door, have no recollection of how I got out of the car. I came to the surface. Okay, right. Okay, that's the second episode. Okay, and then third episode, and then, okay, and then repeatedly dove down the car. So what do you think is the fourth, third one now? Third, up to where? I was exhausted and in a state of shock. Okay, I was exhausted and in a uh, state of shock. Okay, move a little forward and going back to my hotel room for Marvy. Okay, let me see, let me see. Okay, not yet there. So you end up to the period of time. Period of time. So that's the third one. Okay, that's the third one. So he dove. He was unsuccessful. Okay, then he went back to the hotel, and then he saw a car parked, climbed to the back seat, and then asked someone to bring to bring him to Edgartown, and then walking for a period of time. So you end there, that's the third. And then fourth, he was back in his hotel room, and then just short. Then fifth, when I fully realized what had happened this morning, I immediately contacted the police. Okay, so we have 5 episodes now. So these are the 5 episodes. Now, um, first with the presented here on your screen. So first episode up to the main street, next episode after proceeding, then up to the surface, and then third, and then repeatedly dove down up to the period of time, then fourth, and then going back to my hotel room, and then I fully realized. So these are the episodes of his narrative. Now, deception here is seen as a progression. Okay, it's an act over time. But, okay, this is very important. Focus is driven by intentions and guided by the route the communicator formulates to move through the field of thought. So, as forensic linguists, we need to see, okay, what his intentions are, what he's trying to where he's trying to lead us. Okay, what's his narrative? Okay, so focus here is driven by his intentions. So let's take a look at his intentions based on these. Okay, but we know these particular linguistic variables here. The use of I, me, my, a lot of them. Okay, some uses of third personal pronouns, vague pronoun references such as someone, something, things, then verb strings, tried to call, went to open, cognition verbs, think, seem, appeared, negation, no, never, the use of prefix on, clause length, significantly long clauses. And then total, first person singular, okay, non-independent combined, and then ambiguity markers. Okay, let's take a look at this. Notice, okay, the use of all these I, me, my. So 14 out, okay, out of 34 in all those 5 episodes, me, just 2, my, 3, first person, you 21 out of 34, then third person, 0, okay, out of 34. Okay. Here, ambiguity features, verb strings. So 2 verbs functioning as a single verb. Went to call, started yelling, tried to open. Negation, indicating the act or process of negating or something without existence. Cognition verb, cognitive verbs, think, seem, appear. And then indefinite pronoun, something, one, thing. Okay, now, with all these, circled ones here, I want you to, well, it's a deceptive text. So based on these circled phrases here, and plus all the other um, linguistic features that we have noted, plus okay those discussions on deception cues. So how convinced are you that this is a deceptive act? So in what is Ted Kennedy trying to to portray here? Okay, give me your thoughts about how deceptive he is now. So based on these accounts here, okay? Yes, he's deceiving us. Okay, he's deceiving. Okay, it's a deceptive work, deceptive statement. So kindly look at these. Yes, Janina.
Ma'am, I think with the use of his race, he's trying to prove that he tried to do something to help
Mm.
the woman, instead of
Oh,
like just leaving.
okay. He tried to do something. Where
I
is it?
mean, he's like portraying that he tried to help the
He
he
tried
tried
to
to
help.
help
Okay,
or
okay. Wait,
ma'am,
let's
Miss
see.
correct me.
Let's see where he tried to help. I attempted to open the door and the window, but have no correct. Oh, there's just one. I attempted to open the door and the window of the car. So about
Yes,
the
ma'am.
help, maybe just that one. Okay, about trying to help, but you think it's sufficient?
Uh,
Definitely.
I think he's
Definitely.
that's what he's trying to portray po, but I don't think he
Mm-mm.
in the end, I don't think he did enough
Mm-mm.
to try
He
and
did.
help.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So what's his focus? Yeah, Janina, good point. So yeah, he tried, he attempted. Yana, you're back, Yana. Welcome back. Hope you're better now. Yana? Oh, she got disconnected. Okay, Yanni first. Yanni.
Morning, ma'am.
Morning.
So actually, I think um he's also portraying that he's having a hard time to
Mm-hmm.
recall what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just my thoughts. Actually, what really bugged me was he was the word approximately.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned these times and dates and this distance that he was proceeding to Dyke Road and stuff, but he wasn't able to recall other events and gave kind of a specific detail on what
Mm-hmm.
previously happened. So I think that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
inconsistent for
Mm-hmm.
him.
Mm-hmm.
So also these
Okay, wait.
parts.
Oh, wait there. Yanni. Okay. So although okay, I like your point, what you pointed out that he remembered other details. Okay, the dike,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, other details, but not okay about the more important details about
Yes,
how
ma'am.
he should have rescued, okay, the miss here. Okay, what's the other point you wanted to say, Yanni?
Um, the part when he was recalling, he was walking back, and then he mentioned
Mm-mm.
someone, and then he remembered again something doing like walking back around to
Mm-mm.
um that period of time. And so I think I don't know, I just felt that since there's this consistency that he's
Mm-mm.
trying to recall things, maybe
Mm-mm.
deceiving because
Mm-mm.
he's adding information that he could just um tawag dito, parang nagdadagdag lang po siya ng details para lang masuportahan
Mm.
yung
Okay.
alibi niya.
So
Ayun po.
nagdadagdag ng details, so it's a clear violation of the maxim of quantity, right? So you go
Yes,
back
ma'am.
to that. Okay, good. So I think, Yanni, you can very well do that in your thesis. Let's talk later because you don't have uh, a definite, okay, topic yet. So I actually thought of you while preparing for this lesson. So okay, I have something in mind for you. Okay, let's discuss that later on. Okay, Marvy.
As for me, ma'am, in relation to what Yanni has mentioned also earlier, I
Mm-mm.
think it's also suspicious how some of the points, like in the first paragraph, he said
Mm-mm.
that he was unfamiliar with the road, but then
Mm-mm.
it was very specific how he mentioned Edgar Town and also Dyke Road and Main Street. And also,
Mm.
in relation to that, on the second paragraph,
Mm-mm.
he later mentioned that
Second
he has
episode. Uh-uh.
yes po, he has
Mm-mm.
no recollection, but
Mm.
before that all his statements were very detailed. So it's kind of
Mm.
contradicting as to
Mm-mm.
how he's having a hard time recalling, but at the same
Mm-mm.
time there are
Mm-mm.
instances wherein he is so specific with the details po.
Good point. So very
Yes.
inconsistent. Okay, expressing unfamiliarity, and he knows those roads. Right. Maricar?
Ma'am, for me lang po, I mean, they already stated that the inconsistency that
Mm-mm.
the what do you call that, the the interviewee was avoiding the important
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
information, but somehow I
Mm-mm.
think while reading the entire um
Mm-mm.
inter the entire sentiment or statement of the interviewee is like he is implying that he is not part of it's not his intention was to help, he's not accountable of anything, like he's
Mm.
implying that he's innocent because
Mm. Mm.
however it is like questionable since he was not able to explain or to give
Mm.
instead of simply describing what happened, he's trying
Mm.
to I think there's manipulation by using
Mm. Mm.
the uncertainties like I
Mm.
attempted to, I have no
Mm.
recollection. So he's trying
Mm.
to play as a victim as well and he has nothing to
Mm.
do with
Mm.
if there is something that's behind it. Parang ganun po.
Right. So good thing you pointed those up. Okay, attempted to open. So very, very vague. And okay, what else? Yeah, vague references in the use of those strings. An attempt to see. Okay, attempt to open. Okay, attempt to open. Have no recollection. Janina.
And to add, I think it was like he's trying to save his ass
Okay.
because it seems like he's trying to remove himself from the situation and like
Mm-mm.
explaining to the
Mm-mm.
interviewers that he
Mm-mm.
tried everything and he even tried to call for help and
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
yeah, so that's what I'm thinking for, especially
Yeah.
in the part when I fully realized like
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
he
Yeah.
had he was conscious enough to ask someone for help,
Yeah.
but he wasn't conscious enough to ask someone to help the other
The
person in the
lady, right?
car.
The lady in there. And then
Yes, ma'am.
when did that happen? When he fully realized something. Okay, it was the next morning. Okay, yeah. When I fully realized what had happened. So completely distancing himself, okay, from what's supposed to be the, main thing in question about why Miss Mary Kopechne stayed there. Are there things you want to raise? Other observations? Okay, the uses of, the way he attributed himself, uses, overuse of, I was unsuccessful, while what about the reference to the other party, to Miss Mary? To note here, there was one passenger with me, one Miss Mary Kopechne. So notice how he distanced himself from this person. And then, where's this? The other one. There. His reference to Miss Mary. Then repeatedly dove down to the car in an attempt to see if the passenger was still in the car. So trying to, you know, um, distance himself, okay, that he did not know the person, okay, that as if he is, okay, the world revolves around him only, okay, without regarding the state of the other person. Okay, so yeah, look at, I think this was presented earlier, some more information. So there's also this use here of prolix and personal strategy. So this is a verbose approach with high immediacy and ambiguity, and deceivers are cooperatively vague. Okay, so high use of first person singular pronouns, very high use of I, very high use of my, also me, and these ambiguity features. Okay, clustering at that. And here, impersonal strategy. So the focus is other or jointly, this one's different. I'm not giving that as an example anymore, but okay, there's also this narrative fragmentation in which deceptive narratives, okay, can be more likely to fragment into many shorter episodes. So again, we look at what's the reportable event here. Okay, what happened before, what happened after. So you need to distinguish, okay, where something begins, where something ends. Okay, but marked sentence structures would serve as discontinuing markers and signal the lack of cohesion between the events described. Okay, this my last slide. So main deceptive linguistic strategies would make use of these: verbose approach with high ambiguity and immediacy, and focus is other or jointly oriented, factual approach. Okay, we still have time. I can direct you to the other um statements. Okay, statements. Can you go to your BB, to your learning hub on the week analyzing deception, and there's the exercises. Okay, can you check them? This, so you'll be directed to this one. This one we did, okay, Chappaquiddick incident, and there's another one on kidnapping, and there's another one, hospital fires report, child abuse mother, and then it's quite long actually for child abuse mother, although, and then child abuse father. Okay, so for our application activity this Thursday, this is what you will do. So you will do the same way that we have that we have just done here on the Chappaquiddick. So you would need to analyze, okay, certain features, and if you can, delineate, identify the episodes from, okay, from in a particular account that's assigned to you. So I would actually have you worked individually or with a partner here. Okay, so um, for this particular activity, you may choose your partner. Okay, you may choose your partner. But I was thinking, so if I can just assign, um, yeah, I'll devise a way. Okay, devise a way. So we're probably, okay, because these need to be covered. So probably what I can do is just to assign these to you, but you can work with someone else or you can work alone. But these would definitely be distributed, okay, um, so that we can cover these different incidents or witness statements. Okay, so that is all about analyzing deception for this morning session. So we'll have the activity this Thursday. Okay, so I think we can end there. So the others, if you have no more questions, you can now leave, and I would need to talk to some of you here for your concerns, for their grades concerns, and yeah. All right. So have a great lunch, everyone. Thank you. Okay. See you. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, there's an activity tonight, huh? If you're interested. So the Unabomberman, okay, is delivering his talk at 8 p.m. tonight. So see you. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
yeah. Thank you. I'll just talk with you via Messenger, Yanni, later. Okay.
Bye,
So,
ma'am.
because
Thank you po.
thank you. I
Bye
still need
po.
to observe some faculty. So, mamaya
Thank
na.
you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye. Thank